Okay, so Republicans have been freaking out after Democrats have basically went on the attack by calling Republicans weird. As we see from this Washington Post article, weird is the most effective insults Democrats have tried. Here's why. If you haven't noticed, Kamala Harris supporters have ruled out a new line of attack against Donald Trump, whereas the former president may have previously been heralded as a supervillain and aspiring dictator. Harris surrogates are more and more just describing him as a big weirdo. He's just a strange, weird dude, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz told an assembled group of 60,000 white dudes for Harris at an online fundraiser Monday evening. Walz is, if not the inventor of this tactic, its most skilled proponent. These guys are just weird. He laughed at another recent speaking event, later continuing, "We are not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid." Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on MSNBC commented that vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance's remarks about childish women were a really strange take, and Vance's weird style was going to bring about weird policies. Later, Buttigieg went on The Daily Show and told Jon Stewart that Vance had turned out to be, as he described it, odd. And he is an odd person. We already kind of covered Vance a bit. I've already showed like this clip right here where he tries to talk about Mountain Dew and how Democrats are describing it as race. It's just weird. Let's just play this.
Democrats say that it is racist to believe, well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good.
And it just kind of bombs. He gets like a bunch of like petty lash, just like, huh. But it's just like, it's so bad, just like right
Call
here.
that racist too, but it's good.
Just like, it's good. After getting no laughs, he was just trying to add something to that. Because it just bombed. Like, this would ruin any comedian's career if, like, he was at a comedy club. Like, it would bomb so hard. But, you know, he gets a bunch of pity laughs. And it results in him saying this.
I love you guys.
Just like in a desperate attempt to try to, like, glob onto them. Like, it's just weird. Like, that's what this is. It's a weird thing to say. And then this also kind of goes against like what he has said in his book, A Hillbilly Elegy. Mountain Dew mouth may be especially bad in Jackson, but my grandparents fought it in Middletown too. I was 9 months old the first time Mama. Just for calling your grandma Mama, saw my mother put Pepsi in my bottle. If this is in Middletown, Ohio, like this is this is Mountain Dew country right here, okay? You know, this is where you got Mountain Dew that, you know, guys drink and they later put, you know, their spit from all their, you know, not chewing tobacco, fucking pouches and all their spit from their tobacco pouches, their Copenhagen shit. It's just like weird energy coming across. And I, you know, talked about this last time. I don't know who, like, J.D. Vance tries to, like, pretend to be a representative for like the middle class of working people when he's just not. He's like one of Peter Thiel's blood boys. You know, Peter Thiel, who's like a big, you know, San Francisco, you know, Silicon Valley type tech bro. And like that's just who he is. Like a lot of the policies he tries to drive really only helps one percenters, does not help the working class at all. He just tries to relate to them, tries to get their vote and appeal to them in a way because he's from that area, despite the fact that he spent a good chunk of his career shit talking them, like in this book, Hillbilly Elegy. Like, it's really all about, like, you know, the people from there and how he has risen above them in a way. And it's just so bad. But, like, I don't see this working. He's not even popular in the Rust Belt region, which is, you know, the base he tries to appeal to. He's not popular in Ohio. He barely won his race back in 2022. He's not a great pick, but again, we covered all that. He's just a weird guy. We also like have this clip right here. We have his comments about childish cat ladies and how essentially like people who don't have kids should be taxed more. it's just it's just a terrible opinion on things. Like, it's not a great way to really drive your base. It comes off as weirdo behavior, like almost incel behavior. Like, if you don't have kids, you're worthless. Like, that's a weird behavior through and through. And they're also trying to go through like the, oh, step parents are real parents route, because they're trying to attack Kamala with that, being like, oh, she doesn't have any kids of her own, even though she is a step parent with a stepdaughter who does love her. And like, being a step parent isn't a Democrat only thing. Like, there are a good chunk of Republicans who are step parents. There are a good amount of people who are independents who are step parents. Like, it's this weird thing where you think you're attacking the other side, but you're really just punching your own side as well. They've also made comments about Kamala's race. This mostly came through a interview that Trump did at a black journalist event, and essentially he was just like, she always talked about how she was Indian during her career, because she is mixed, I believe. I believe she is half black, half Indian. But he was like, oh, she always talked about how she was Indian, but now all of a sudden she's black? I don't know. And it just comes off as weird. Like, yeah, biracial people exist, and they are just kind of shooting themselves in the foot at every step. And now, with the Democrats really going after this weird front, just calling them weird, they haven't been like, they were pretty strong for it for about a week. It's still kind of continuing in a bit, but it's not that strong now, I think. But it definitely got a rise out of people like Vivek Ramaswamy. This whole their weird argument from the Democrats is dumb and juvenile. This is a presidential election, not a high school prom queen contest. It's also a tad ironic coming from the party that preaches diversity and inclusion. Win on policy if you win, but win on policy if you can, but cut the crap. Also, like, that's the weird. The Democrats are weird because they're all about diversity and inclusion. Aren't isn't Vivek Ramaswamy an Indian man? First of all, Vivek Ramaswamy is definitely weird. He, for like, when he was trying to become the Republican nominee during the primaries, he was trying to go for like a younger voter base, while also saying that young people shouldn't be able to vote. Like, we need to raise the voting age. It's just weird shit. Like, yeah, you're weird. You definitely are a weird guy. You literally had Ann Coulter on your show, and to your face, she said that while she believed you were the best possible person to become the Republican nominee on that stage when there was the Republican debates, she literally said she wouldn't vote for you because you're Indian.
You are so bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. An American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. Oh, and I agreed with many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you. Because you're an Indian. Because you're an Indian.
She was literally racist, extremely racist to your face. And it gets worse because after that, he literally went onto Twitter and was just like, Ann Coulter said what she felt. That's pretty that's pretty dope that she was extremely racist to my face about how she would not vote for me based on the color of my skin. Like, it's so insane. And he wants to call other people weird. Like, she essentially spat in his face and he just licked up the spit. He was just like, yummy spit. I want more, please. Just so fucking weird. But yeah, let's look at this clip of JD Vance in terms of the childish cat lady remarks. I don't think he says it in this clip, but it's in the same vein.
Right, there are just these basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives, I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less less mentally stable. And of course, you talk about going on Twitter. Final point I'll make is you go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
Yeah, he's essentially saying if you don't have kids, you are psychotic. Based off what? just because, oh, you don't have this factor in your life that is children. No, people can still be crazy and have children. There are plenty of people who are insane and have children. You're one of them. You are literally one of them. Because going out and saying this shit in the open where anyone can hear it is weird. Just saying it with your chest. It's just so dumb. Also, JD Vance is married to an Indian woman. He has also shared the rhetoric that Donald Trump spoke about during that black journalist conference, where he said, like, oh, she was Indian, now she's black, shit like that. Him and his wife have kids. How can you share that rhetoric while also having biracial children? It's weird. Speaking of weird, and this goes more into something that really popped off in the last few days. What happened with, I forget what her name was, but it was the boxer that everyone was like transvestigating at the Olympics. It was disgusting. What essentially happened is that there was this one girl who beat another girl who, from what I believe, did not even have like a great win-loss record when it came to boxing, but immediately everybody was starting to question about whether or not the woman who beat, I believe it was a boxer from Italy, I believe the woman who won was from Algeria, and she beat a woman from Italy. Like, really fast, too. It was, I believe it was in the first round, and, like, the woman afterwards who lost was just like, I'd never been hit that hard in my life, and it really created this stupid debate about whether she was a male or not, because people found out afterwards that she was actually, that she actually has, like, XY chromosomes, even though that was later discovered to be a genetic, like, people like to think that, like, sex is this binary thing, but they completely disregard the fact that unisex people exist. Like, unisex is a thing, and essentially it is like when there's an altercation in someone's genetic makeup when they are, basically being created, that causes them to have certain biological factors that, don't exactly go along with what their sex is. It's definitely a hard topic to talk about because there's a lot of different, I'm not exactly an expert in it, but I do understand that there are, deviations, there's different genetic mix-ups. It's not as simple as everyone likes to think it is, but because of that, a lot of people were saying that she was born a male and is trans. She's not even trans. You can't even be Algeria. You can't even be trans in Algeria. It's literally illegal. And this was something that was like talked a lot too. Pat McAfee and Logan Paul talked about it, but I'm going to talk about that in a separate video on my other channel, Fruity. People were talking about the Algeria boxer. It was just so dumb. It was like the Twitter blew up. If you were on Twitter that day, I believe it was like Thursday, everyone was just going nuts. Everyone was just sharing misinformation out the wazoo, mostly from, the usual suspects, the people like Fox News, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, people like that, just completely disgusting behavior through and through. It was just completely disgusting shit, and people have also overlooked at the fact that there's literally a dude who essayed a 12-year-old who is literally participating in the Olympics, and, more people are literally pressed about the woman with a, different genetic, with like a different genetic makeup than someone who literally R-worded a 12-year-old. Yet there's also this woman who I've seen pop up every now and again. Apparently she's trying to run for office, but like she's just a fucking weirdo. And just like listen to this.
These should get their own category because before, if a man hit a woman, it used to land him in jail.
She can't even say the F slur with like pride, even as someone who is definitely, homophobic. She can't even say it with her chest. It feels like she's just like forcing herself to say it. Like these. This is just like fucking weirdo behavior.
He gets you a gold medal at the Olympics. These are the worst.
She didn't even get a gold medal. It was just a part of the whole thing. It was just one fight. She won one fight. That's it. She did not win a gold medal.
In history, they have made a mockery out of Christianity and women. And let me remind you, there's no such.
Oh yeah, there was also that whole drama with apparently there being a recreation of the First Supper with like drag queens. And I think, but first of all, I think some people have pointed out that it was not accurate to the First Supper. That was something else. I'm not sure. I don't really care either way because the First Supper isn't like a, it's not something that came from the Bible. It was just a Leonardo da Vinci painting. Also, like, just, it goes to show how fucking, like, brain broken I feel like America is connected to the rest of the world. The rest of the world definitely does have its problem. A lot of these countries definitely have its problems. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to, like, ridiculous shit, like the, people being, like, calling drag queens groomers, it's just, it really goes to show when you see shit like this, like how far apart we are from the way of the world when it comes to just idiotic talking points.
Such thing as a chick with a dick. Keep women's sports female.
Yeah, this is someone who's literally trying to run for office for Missouri Secretary of State. I highly doubt she's really gonna get anywhere. Bro, this is crazy. I'm so sorry for Missouri. America in of itself is always gonna be, until something big happens in regards to these sort of marginalized groups, America is always going to be racist, homophobic, transphobic. It's just something that's baked into the culture itself at this point. But at the same time, I think people have a line when it comes to this shit because nobody, people will be hateful, but nobody wants to be weirdly hateful. Like, yeah, there are people who are racist, but there are people who are racist who aren't going to join the KKK. Like some people have a line with this shit. It doesn't excuse the fact that they are that way, but they're just not going to be excessively weird about it. And this is what this is. They're not going to do such a thing like, I don't know, defend a rapist, which is what Israel is doing. Or at least a contingency of, I believe, their far right party. Literally, like, not just protested, but like literally broke into a camp to try to save some soldiers who were being questioned in regard to them essentially essaying a detainee at the Sib Tinman torture camp. And if you don't know what this camp was, it was essentially a concentration camp, is literally what it is. And this is a story that I've covered beforehand. But there was a detainee who was said to have been violated by a cattle prod, and like 7 soldiers in that camp were involved in the process. But here we have this little thread from Muhammad Shahada. Israeli soldiers severely ganged R-word a Gaza detainee at the torture camp. The case was so extreme the victim had to be hospitalized and the IDF had to detain 10 reservists. Israel ministers are now calling the rapists holy and heroes, demanding their release. Israel's Knesset, currently on spring break, is holding an emergency discussion tomorrow to defend the rapist IDF soldiers who were detained for gang R-wording a Gaza detainee so severely he had to be hospitalized. Israel's finance minister is calling the R-word IDF soldiers heroic warriors, demanding their immediate release. The secretary minister is calling them our best heroes and calling their arrest shameful. Many ministers and MKs are defending them. Israeli journalists and public figures are also rushing and scrambling to defend the IDF gang R-wordists who severely assaulted a Gaza civilian the IDF had captured to the torture camp. There were wide calls for pro-R-wordist protests in Israel right now. I wonder why MDF investigators had to come mass to arrest reservists. Could it be that they themselves understand that this is a shameful and unnecessary arrest during wartime? Leave everything now and come protect our soldiers who are R-wording detainees. Yeah, that's essentially what it is. Like, they literally just don't care about what these soldiers did. I believe there was literally a figurehead in the Knesset that was literally like, yeah, we don't care. They're Palestinian, we don't give a shit.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי,
הכל.
מצוין.
הכל.
זה מה ש...
It also needs to be said that the real reason why these soldiers are being detained is more than likely due to the fact that if Israel does not, question these soldiers and or punish them in some way, the ICJ can basically just look at what they're doing and be like, oh, since you can't even police your own soldiers, we're going to do it for you. So the only reason they're really even questioning the soldiers at all or doing this whole operation at all is literally to get the ICJ off their back for the time being. But these far right protesters who broke into this camp are so stupid they don't even recognize that. The Gazan R word victim was hospitalized with a serious wound in his rectum area. Israeli media is calling him a Nakba terrorist. I believe that's what the I forget who exactly it was, but the guy I was saying beforehand who was like, no, it's fine if they do it to him. I believe he literally said it's Nakba. Like, the guy's Nakba. We can do whatever we want to him, essentially. Israeli media is calling him a Nakba terrorist to cover it up, but every single detainee at the camp is a civilian never charged or put on trial. Combatants are detained elsewhere. Israelis are now rushing to the concentration camp for a mass protest. They're not there to demand the release of the unjustly kidnapped or systematically tortured R-worded Gaza civilians. These protesters are there to show full solidarity to the IDF R-wordists. Yep. And they literally got into the camp as well. They got into it, and essentially nothing happened. I believe they tried to push them back, but nothing ever really came from it. But yeah, it's just fucking weird. And I bet none of these people who literally broke into this camp are gonna see a single second in jail or whatever. Just completely disgusting. And speaking of Israel continuing to do something disgusting, Hamas political leader Haniya, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Hamas political leader assassinated in Iran, plunging Middle East conflict into dangerous new phase. Now, this goes with what I was saying about Benjamin Netanyahu's speech last week. Essentially, he's just trying to do World War III, because this is an idiotic move, to say the very least. Hamas said its political leader has been killed in an overnight strike in the Iranian capital, Tehran, a major development that throws a war between Israel and the militant grouping into an unpredictable and dangerous new phase. Now, I believe Israel has not said exactly oh yeah, we did this. I think they alluded to it. Israel's military said it does not respond to reports in foreign media, though senior officials have previously vowed to eliminate Hamas and its leadership in response to the group's attack on Israel. I believe Benjamin Netanyahu has actually sent something. In a televised address Wednesday evening, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel had delivered crushing blows to its enemies in the last few days, but did not mention the death of the leader. We'll settle the score with anyone who harms us, anyone who massacres our children, anyone who murders our civilians. In a speech, he said he did not give in to earlier calls to end the war in Gaza, and I am not giving in today. He conceded, these are challenging days, but stressed Israel is ready for any scenario. It's just so fucking disgusting. And we're continuing to support this. Literally, we are essentially allowing a country that is basically meant to serve as our attack dog in the Middle East to drive us into war. Is essentially what's happening. The US is basically being pulled along into war because Israel does not know how to just not bomb someone. It's just so stupid. If this leader was in any other country, Israel would not do it. Because they know it would be a stupid idea that would just lead to conflict in the future. But they're willing to do it with Iran because they know that the United States isn't going to, really give them any pushback when it comes to it. It's just so fucking stupid what they're doing here. And it really just shows how the United States have no control over Israel, despite the fact that we are their biggest benefactor. If the U.S. did not back Israel, Israel would not really exist because it doesn't have the manpower on its own to really support itself that much. I mean, they can't even handle a group like Hamas that, apparently loses soldiers all the time. Discussing how this one nation is just completely just dragging along a superpower into its war when all we literally had to do is say no. That's all I really had to talk about. It's just, right-wingers all around are just being fucking weird. Whether it's in this country or another one. A country that really is just is only really around because of us. It's just so fucking stupid. And these people are just so fucking weird. It does give me some hope of how weird they are being. Like, there was a thought of mine when this weird narrative started going around that they were going to try to, like, moderate their position a bit to not come across as weird. But I feel like they just plunged into it. Trump has had the funniest response to this, where he's literally like, I'm not weird. Okay, they're weird, but I'm not. I'm actually the least weird.
They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not.
But yeah, that's all I had to really talk about that. Just Republicans being fucking weird like they always are. But yeah.